Welcome to the Mental America podcast with Jamie. This is my co-host, Eddie Canera. I'm very excited about today's guest. At 5 years old, he was introduced to martial arts. At 16, he became a professional cyclist. And at 25, he was sponsored and traveled the world playing paintball. During the early 90s, his interest turned into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He is now a successful businessman. Marcio Silva, welcome to the Mental America podcast.
Thank you for having me here. Wow, you did it. You did do a lot of research. That's awesome.
We have to, man. Yeah. Listen, you're a pretty interesting cat, so I'm definitely excited about this having you on this podcast and learning about you. And I mean, at such an early age, you know, it's pretty amazing. And I can't wait to dive into the interview and get inside a mind like yours. You have proven that hard work. With hard work, you can achieve a lot. So
absolutely, it's all hard work for sure.
So, Marcio, I gave a brief description about who you are. I'm going to let you take it from here and give us an in-depth
there's a lot
background
of
of yourself.
There's a lot of stuff I don't talk about. I try to stay low key. You know, we come from a Portuguese Brazilian family. When I was young, you know, my father came from Brazil on a sports athlete visa. He played for the Cosmos in New York, playing soccer, and he wanted to have an American son. So what he did is, you know, brought my mother over. My mother's from Funchal, Portugal. My father's from Brazil.
Beautiful place. Both beautiful places.
Yeah, pretty crazy because he was born in Figueiró in Portugal, actually. And what happened there is, as a little baby, you know, Portugal started getting kind of crazy for my grandfather and grandmother, and they're like, we got to get out of here. So they got on a ship, and they sailed the ocean for 3 weeks. They ended up in Brazil. So my father never knew Portugal. He never seen Portugal, actually, till he was in his 50s. Never seen it because he was from Brazil. You know, he lived in Brazil all his life. And he had a pretty tough, you know, him and his sister had a tough, you know, upbringing in Brazil, working in what you call farmer markets here, but more like flea markets where they would do their daily, you know, shopping. People would set up in the different parts of the city, food, clothing. And my grandmother would make clothing, and my father would venture out with her to sell clothing, and you know, he would do his own stuff there, selling kites and pens, whatever he could get his hands on to do his little hustling. He would do, you know. He grew up in the streets of Brazil, which over there you become pretty much a con artist, you know. And he stayed away from that, but he made money. He knew how to make money, so his mind was already, you know, into the business. So he started playing soccer. You know, he did judo also. He grew up into judo, soccer. He was very into sports, this guy. Very strong, very respectable guy in Brazil. Very scary guy. People look at him and they're like, wow, you know, don't mess with this guy. So I grew up in that kind of, you know, getting the hand all the time. You know, was really getting beat up by my father. So we didn't have a good relationship as we got older. You know, it goes on in a story. But I was born here, and then he sent me back to Brazil to stay with my grandmother and mother until he finally set up a foundation here in the country so he could bring us over. So I pretty much lived there, you know, fighting for my life on the streets, you know, like going down the street, which every day was a battle. You cross the street, you know, they're waiting for you. Hey, let's go. Let's fight. There's different neighborhoods would have gangs of people, you know, of kids. And back then, no phones. Everything was hand to hand. You know, we'd fight, fly kites. We'd make our own kites, fly them. Cut each other down, different colors represent different neighborhoods. We'd cut them down, get into fights, get up, and it was just a good time of fighting. I mean, that's how I grew up. So at a young age, I was introduced to judo. So
now, what's the difference with like judo? Explain that a little bit.
So judo is basically like wrestling, okay, but it's stand up. So you're using the gi, right, which people call it a robe. So you're using the robe with jiu-jitsu.
So it's not the traditional jiu-jitsu uniform. It's actually like
it is. It's a strong uniform like a jiu-jitsu uniform, but you do stand up. So you start from your feet, like jiu-jitsu does, but it's throws. So you're throwing the guy down. Once you throw him down, you get your points and you get back up and you fight again for the takedown. Some submissions in there, but it has to be a quick submission, just like wrestling where you pin the guy, you get your points, you take the back, get your points. It's more of a point fighting system. That's why it's in the Olympics where jiu-jitsu is all mixed in. It's submission. You fight to the finish, to the death, I call it. Yeah. So you submit somebody, they tap. They don't tap, you know, they get a snapped arm. They don't tap, they go to sleep, you know, from the choke. So I grew up in the judo part of it, you know, and I trained with a guy in Brazil where he lived upstairs, and in his garage, which was all gated, open to the outside elements, which was always hot in Brazil, you know, talking about 100 degrees with, paper thin mats. So I remember those days where I'd be thrown around and the kids would walk by on the street as they're playing. I'm over there suffering inside training my butt off. And the kids would walk by and make fun of us. They'd be like, "Oh, look at you're in a robe," in Brazilian, of course. "Oh, look at you, you're in a robe." And then the instructor goes, "Hey, you wanna come in here?" And so I had to go in, and I still remember those days. He goes, "Marcio, you go with him," and we'd flip him into the other kid would land on his head, start crying, run off, go get his father, come in, and then said, my instructor would beat him up. That's how it was in Brazil, right. And we'd storm. Jiu-jitsu schools, judo schools. So they would storm each other back and forth. It was pretty crazy back in the day. And that's how jiu-jitsu ended up being the same way. Over here, it's very laid back. Jiu-jitsu is more of a it's a respectful art, this and that. In Brazil, it wasn't. It wasn't a respectful art. It came from different schools fighting different schools into battles on the beaches, at nightclubs. It was on. It was about respect, relations. You had the Machados, you had the Gracies. So jiu-jitsu came from a hard ground. Over here, when it got to America, it got watered down, got soft. It got soft to become a sport, and we're trying to make it into the Olympics right now. But anyways, so I grew up into that, came to the country. Once I came here, I continued my judo training. My father was here. He blew out his knee playing soccer. He was a goalie. Blew out his knee, got surgery. Figured out when he moved to New Bedford that it's not going to work. He's like, I'm not going to do soccer anymore. I can't. So he tried out for the Patriots.
Okay.
He tried out for
Interesting. What position would he try out for?
Kicker,
right?
Kicker, yeah. So he blew out his
soccer
knee.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So he went for a kicker. He went to tryouts. He actually made it, and the contract was $100,000 a year to be a kicker for the Patriots.
What year was this?
Then. That was in the 80s.
Nice.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. I was born in 73. So it was right around 82, 83. He had tried out, and he blew his knee again on the tryouts. And right after the tryouts, we went to the second trial, and he blew out his knee again, the same knee that he kicks with. He was a lefty, and again, he didn't make it. So he went into the life of construction.
So how old were you when you came to America?
I was 8 years old.
8 years old. So let's back up a little. In Brazil, you stated that the different, the Machados, the Gracies. Yeah. So did you guys compete with each other at fights at events?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So is that why there was such bad blood? I guess lack of better words.
Yeah. There was a lot of bad blood because of schools teaching when they're not supposed to be teaching, and this is my barrio, this is my neighborhood. Get out of here. You don't belong.
So if I was a Machado or a Gracie and I didn't want to be part of that group anymore, would I be able to be accepted into another group?
Yeah, with initiation, you get your beating. You get your beating. You move on, and there was spies and all that good stuff. And that was stories growing up. That's why my father really respected the judo, and jiu-jitsu is new. It started only in the 50s. So as I was growing up, judo was very, very quiet. It was very, in the 80s, it started really shining, and then in the 90s at the UFC, of course, really shined. But jiu-jitsu was very hidden. So nobody knew about jiu-jitsu. That's why I wasn't in jiu-jitsu at that young age, because there was too much. It was for tough people. It wasn't for kids. It was for guys. It was for real fighting, bare knuckle fighting. They just wrapped their hands with tape and you'd fight, and the submission would win all the time. So it's proven time after time the Gracies would get the world's best kickboxers in, best boxers in, and they would say, "Let's go." And I would throw a punch.
UFC won when Gracie won that tournament? That's when it kind of
that's when it took off. Yes, that's when it popped.
Proven. Right?
Yep.
It was no weight class.
No weight classes. No time limits.
No gloves. No nothing.
No time limits.
Skill versus skill.
And that's why.
And jiu-jitsu prevailed.
That's right. And that's why Royce would always wear his gi, because they wanted him to grab. Every time you grab that gi, it's an advantage to us, right? And Royce Gracie is actually the weakest of the Gracies out of the whole family. They threw him in there just to show that the weakest and the smallest would win. Yeah.
So before we get really into the jiu-jitsu and your career, what led you to a businessman now, at 16 years old, you became a professional cyclist.
Yep. So I started.
How did that come about?
Yeah, that was weird. I just started riding. The relationship with my father, trying to get out of the house. I really says I need to get out. I need to zoom out, because I didn't have a childhood like everybody else, like any kid. Actually, I didn't have summer vacations after school. I was because I went into school late and didn't know how to speak English, I stayed back a couple times. So I hated school. I hated it. I was made fun of, in school. I've gotten into a lot of fights in school. I was my father put me in a private school, actually, which was a Catholic school, St. Joseph's, and I ended up beating up the principal at a really young age. It was crazy, it was nuts.
Did they kick you out?
Oh, they kicked me out. Yeah, I got kicked out. I was mad because I couldn't speak English. And that's what I had. So my father would bring me to work. So my father was a Mason. He started his company after he got hurt. He started getting in with the Italians up in Boston, up Waltham, Mass, Belmont. He got in with the Italian crew there, and he started making walls for all these guys, Pigeon Hills, Belmont, Bellerique, all those areas. He started getting in, and he was an amazing Mason, him and my grandfather. My grandfather ended up coming over. They started a huge company. My father had like 100 guys at that time.
Wow, that's a good sized company.
Yeah, huge company, 5-6 vans going, right out of the house. So you didn't even have a building at the time. We were doing it out of our house. I seen things I used to see. My father get into, brawls with people, construct workers that were stealing off the job, the stuff he dealt with on a daily basis of employees. So, we'd see that. And he started working for the Italians, and he built this company huge. And I used to go to work every summer. So summertime, I would get out of school, 4 o'clock in the morning, my light goes on. Let's go. You're going to work. So I would work, hustling the wheelbarrow, mixing cement. That's it. That's what I would do. Huh?
Did you mind it, or you just?
Oh, I hated it. I hated it. Oh man, I hated it with a passion, and that's why I couldn't stay with construction as I got older, take over the company, because I hated it with a passion. So I needed to find a way out, and I started cycling at probably 11 years old. I says, let me get on a bike and just ride, and somebody introduced me to it. He goes, oh, you should start cycling. Some kid, my neighbor. Oh, let's start riding. So I started riding, and I got on a junior national team. We started traveling the country, me and my brother, and my father.
Was it a tryout to make that team?
No, it wasn't a tryout. We just rode for teams, and we'd go to competitions, and the competitions, as you're winning them, they're like, hey, you want to do the junior Olympic trials? Yeah, we'll try it out, and go out, drive out to New York and Lake Placid, and we did the trials there. I ended up in 3rd place. My brother came in like 6th, and from there I was already at the end of my junior career. Once I was 15, 16, so I ended up going to the adult divisions. Riding.
At what age?
16.
16.
Yeah, I was already adult. Because it was 15 and under. Riding for the cycling league, and my brother, which was younger than me, stayed in the junior. He was always better than me, so he ended up going out to Portugal riding for C. Casal, and he became he kept training, and I kind of got involved in track in school, then football, and I was good at all that stuff, playing football, and then I went to the soccer team. I wanted to play everything, and I just wanted to do stuff, riding, track team, football, soccer. I just did everything. I just wanted to get an out, to not go home.
Yeah. So on the cycling, I mean, a lot of people look at a bike, right? But what's the top speed on those things? It's no joke.
Man, no, they're no joke. Like sprints, you could get up to 40 miles an hour.
Oh, and you
on a flat,
and then you're doing curves, and it's.
And then you're talking about downhill speeds. I've hit downhill speeds at about 60 plus miles an hour.
That's serious speed.
And I've crashed
with a bike right near you, probably too, right?
Oh yeah. You're in packs. You're in packs and cars around you.
Have you ever got into an accident?
I got into some crashes. Yeah, I got into some serious crashes. Yeah, pretty fun. Pretty fun stuff. Makes you tough, But that's what I liked, But again, I got involved with my wife that I'm with
now. You guys
now.
wear helmets back then?
Oh yeah. We used helmets. Yeah, you had to. Yeah, to ride against in the federation, you had to wear helmet.
But there's no padding, right? It's just a cycling suit because you want to keep it. Yeah.
That's all it is. It's all it is. You and the bike, You and the bike. And back then it was metal frames, and then they started coming out with the aluminum, TXS framing, and then it came out to titanium, and now today it's carbon fiber.
So in jiu-jitsu, it's a mental game. In cycling, do you think it's also mental or more physical?
It's both. It's really, really both, because you're riding with a team, and it is you out there, but you have a team. You do what the coach says for the team to take win, because a lot of it was stage races, so you had to really plan with a team. So we always had the meetings of who's going to win. So sometimes you had to set back. Even though you wanted to win, you couldn't win.
What's the strategy behind that? Like riding with a team?
Riding with the team is winning as a team. You know,
It's almost like Formula racing.
It's just like the Tour de France.
Yeah.
You know, winning as a team. Formula racing, you're really racing yourself.
Right.
You got that car, the sponsored Marlboro car, whatever that they want to win. But when you're riding with a team, say, we rode a Crest back in the day, Wonder Bread, all these teams. The strongest kid on that team, the guy that performed the most, the best, he would always be the winner. You were just his worker. You would domestique.
Clear the way.
You would clear the way for him. You would attack for them. Packs all together. Say, Marcio, you're going to go out there. You're going to give everything you can. I want you to kill yourself. You're going to end up in the back later on. But we need, we need George to get up in the front.
So how do you practice for something like that?
Just training. Just get behind. We'd go out and do interval trainings. I mean, we'd be on a bike 4 or 5 hours a day.
And just
seriously,
it and just kind of figure out
just
different.
Train. Oh,
I mean, like with football, you have straight, right? You've got to play.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much the same thing. Then you get on a bike and you go, okay, plan of attack or whatever. You guys yelled each other signals or something?
Oh yeah, we'd have code signals. Oh yeah, we'd have all that. We'd talk. We didn't have headphones back in the day.
Do they have that now?
Yeah, now they talk, communicate with headphones. Yeah, but not now. Back when I trained, we didn't have none of that. So it was basically just talking to each other and doing what we had to do with a pack of 200 guys. It was crazy. And our training would be, with motorcycles. So, our coach would go out on a motorcycle and bring up the bike to his motorcycle 50 miles an hour to get behind him. And, you're zipping behind it, drafting behind that. But people don't understand how fast you could go with those things, I remember in Portugal when I went out there to train for a couple of years, getting ready for the big tour races out in California and down in Colorado. We'd go out to Portugal and we'd train out there. We'd get on the highways. So over there, we were able to ride on the highways, right? So we'd get behind semi-tractor trailers. We'd pull out into the middle of the road. We'd slow them down at 60 miles an hour. We'd slow them down and we'd jump right behind them. Now the wind pulls you in. So they're going 70 miles an hour down the road. Wow. Behind these things sucked in. It's crazy. Insane.
So last year during COVID, I bought a cycling bike called a Giant.
Yeah.
And it cost me like $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
I rode it once. Yeah. And I didn't realize thin tires, how those things go and how sensitive they are.
Unbelievable.
To moving. Yeah. And I was like, wow, it's completely different. Yeah. It's just, honestly, I've been on it once. It's been sitting. Yeah. I needed like a mountain bike or something.
Yeah.
Because those cycling bikes are no joke.
They're insane. You hit sand with that, you're done. You hit a patch of sand, you're gone.
You're gone.
Yeah, because those tires are supposed to be inflated to 140, 150 PSI. They're hard as a rock. You try to nobody inflates tires. Nobody knows that. Oh, you got to inflate your tires every time you go out, but you got to inflate them to the right pressure.
That's true. The guy told me at the store that you make sure that you check the inflation every time.
Every time. You got to
took it out once though.
Now, do you have to regulate that pressure to the person on the bike, whatever they're comfortable with?
Whatever the tire pressure is recommended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter your weight. It matters whatever the pressure of that tire is. Also, you'd be warping wheels, and that's how wheels get warped. If you don't have the right inflation, you start warping wheels.
What if you had maybe even a pebble or that's an inch on the ground? Would that affect your stability on the bike? Or?
Not really. No. If you're riding it, true and straight, you're pretty much good.
How about a wet road?
Wet roads are scary. They're scary on the turns, hitting, painted lines on the road. Yeah, that gets kind of scary.
In terms of racing? Like if the weather...
Oh, it's crazy. You race. Oh, yeah, they don't stop.
So there's nothing. It's
nothing.
No weather.
Are you more cautious or you just whatever?
Absolutely more cautious. But when are you cautious when you're trying to win the race,
exactly.
Right?
You forget about it.
Oh, yeah. I've wiped out and, man, it's crazy. I'd rather fall in the rain than not in the rain. You don't get as rash burned, Oh,
yeah, because of wet.
I've been in hospitals and digging out rash, tar out of my arms and horrible. I'm glad I don't do it no more. I still ride now to get ready for tournaments. Yeah, as a hobby to get ready for tournaments. I'll go out for 2 hours, get the cardio up. A lot of the Diaz brothers do in the UFC. A lot of cyclists, George St. Pierre trains on a bike. So I still train. I got a bike at home. It's about worth $14,000. My bike's all carbon, right down to the pedals, crank, chain, all carbon. So look, out of France.
Serious business.
Yeah, serious.
So you go out for 2 hours. How long how many miles you think?
2 hours I could put on about 60 miles.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Go to Boston.
Oh, yeah. You could go right up to Boston. Yeah,
definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after cycling, you got into playing paintball.
Yes. That was a fun time.
You know what I have noticed about this man when I researched him? I want to dive into your mind a little bit because you get into paintball. It's like you have a vision like this thing is going to pop.
Yeah.
It's going to be something.
Yeah.
And you open up a store and you're successful.
Yeah.
Then down the line, you get into jiu-jitsu right at the right moment.
Yeah.
And now that is what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have like a way where you can almost see a trend that's going to be coming up and you kind of know when to get into it, like a business?
Not really, no.
Or is it just the universal luck or whatever you want to call
just, I get into a lot of stuff. I never look at anything as a business. I never do. That's one thing I never do is I don't look at anything into a business.
It's just an activity.
It was an activity. I was working construction, making $5,000 to $10,000 a week, working for my father, running the company, being a foreman, working union, running machines, hydraulic license, working these big companies, making money, living in my house, $1 million home in Rochester, a lot of land. I was good, financial wise, but I was never happy, So when I got into paintball, it was in 1998. I started getting into paintball. I just went. Some friend goes, "Hey, let's go play paintball." So I came out in the Acushnet Woods. I was like, "Wow, this is cool. Is there anything more than this?" Well, there's a little store in Fall River out of a video shop, and I went up there. I still remember the kid's name was Joe St. Pierre. He was out of Foxborough. He had a little paintball store out of his video store, like a Blockbuster store he had. Up on a rotary in the airport. And he rented a piece of land in State Forest, Freetown State Forest. And I went to go see him. I was like, I'm looking to, buy a gun. I heard you got some guns. He hooked me up with a gun. He goes, you want to go to my field this weekend? So I go down to the field, stop playing, meet all these guys. And before you know it, he's like, you want to play a tournament with me? You're really good at paintball. He goes, you're amazing. You get to the spots. And it was all woods ball at the time. It was all woods. It wasn't like it is today. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then I started visioning like, wow, this guy's making a killing over here. Selling paintballs and he's selling air over here in this land. This dude's driving a nice truck. I said, look at this guy. He's making a killing, ripping people off, So I says, all right, no problem. I says, hey, you want to hook me up as a partner? We'll go with it, do another store. No, I don't want to do that. So I went around him. I did my research. Yep. Went around him, started buying wholesale off of a guy up in Boston. And I went to my father. Says, "Hey, Dad, I want to put a paintball shop up." And he's like, "What? You're stupid. You're crazy." I says, "No, just rent me a trailer from William Scott. Those little construction trailers.
Yeah.
The Basel. Just put it in the corner of the building. I'm just doing it part time. I could make some good money." I brought that little trailer into $1 million business a year.
Wow.
I was pulling out of that trailer over $1 million
before you moved.
And then I moved to State Road, and I was pulling about $3 million. Paintball was crazy. I was selling like 2-3 pallets a week of paintballs. You had 100 cases of paint on it. I would make about $25 a box. I was selling 3 pallets a week. It was crazy.
And you travel the world playing paintball.
And then I got sponsored. Yeah. So another thing that was funny, I went to Worlds, and I really believed in training and building my teams. And nobody ever seen these teams come out of New England like that. So everybody was coming out of the West Coast. All the teams that were winning were from the West. They train year round. So I was like, man, I gotta beat these guys. We gotta really get there. So I says to my team, we're gonna train hard. We're gonna go out to the woods. We're gonna train and everything was speedball, inflatable bunkers. I ended up buying a field. I asked a guy, can I borrow your backyard? We set it up. Started selling up some gallons of water, shooting out of the blinds, hitting those things. Throwing paintballs in the air, shooting paintballs out of the... We got, like...
Hold on.
Yeah. You don't even know.
You shot paintballs and shot the paintball?
Yeah, we'd throw the paintball in the air and shoot the paintball out of the air. We'd shoot it right out. We'd blow it up in the air. That's how precise we'd get with these paintballs. We could hit a quarter from, like, 40 yards away, like, no problem. Boom. Right on the spot. A quarter. A dime even. That's how precise you'd get with just a pop-out with this gun. It was nuts.
What's the most expensive gun you competed with?
Oh, my God, man. The gun I was sponsored with probably worth about $6,000.
Damn.
Yeah, I still have it. It's at the office at my gym. And
what's the range on it for shooting?
How
many yards you think?
Probably about 50, 60 yards. If you really float it up in the air, you could get like 80, 90.
Did you ever go to a range, like a target range, and shoot those things? Or just
No. You just play out in the field. Yeah, people's heads were our targets, Yeah, seriously. So I took the team to Worlds. It was like, we're winning everything around here. We crushed all these teams that were playing for years. They're like, oh, look at this team out here. They're just killing it. So we went out to Worlds one year. I said, let's drive out to Orlando. Let's just do it. We went out there. We ended up making it to the finals. And people were like, who are these guys? And we ended up playing against the Naughty Dogs, which was a world-renowned team, and we beat them. And all these people are like, all these vendors are like, who the hell are these guys? We want to sponsor them. We were called Eastside. Who the hell are they? Coming out of the East Coast. So paint sponsor came up to me and goes, I want you guys to play. We're going to give you paint sponsorship. And then there was a guy out of England, which was at the time, he was making his own custom guns out of England, which is called Eclipse. His name was Jacko. He's like, I want you to shoot my gun. And I says, oh, you do? He goes, yeah, I watch you play out there. He goes, yeah, amazing. The way you take the field. He goes, where are you from? I said, I'm from New England. He goes, really? He goes, I'm going to be moving out to Warren, Rhode Island pretty soon.
Not too far from here.
Yeah. And I'm going to set up a warehouse there. And I says, really? You out of England? He goes, yeah. He goes, my wife is the vice president of Hasbro Toys in Rhode Island.
Damn. What a
Loaded,
coincidence.
right? And I'm like, no shit. I says, we did a lot of work at Hasbro Toys. My father actually did all the inside of Hasbro Toys. He did all the flooring. He goes, oh, man, that's amazing, the colored flooring. He goes, yeah, my father did all that. We know them very well. We do. My father does all the construction for Hasbro and the manufacturing. He goes, wow, what a small world. So when he came here, me and my wife was there to help him unload his trucks. So his trucks of product came over. We started helping him. He fully sponsored us. For years, I was playing under this professional guy that taught me everything. He brought me to that next level of we just took over New England of paintball. You know, so here we are, fully sponsored
What happened
team.
to the guy that didn't want to be your partner? Did he go out of business?
Oh, yeah. He went out of business
Choked him
pretty
out?
quick. Yeah. No, it was funny. He didn't want to tell me. He just disappeared. Yeah, gone. Choked him out, tap out. You know, we took over. We took over, man.
bro.
We just, people that were happy when I sold out in 2006, they were happy. You know,
I read in that article that you got out of it because you were disgusted and it became too political.
Too political, absolutely.
How does paintball become political?
Because what happens is when they see a team like us winning, we're going to Denver, Colorado. We're playing in Mile High Stadium. In the stadium, they had all the netting set up. Oh, yeah.
Like the obstacle course.
Yep, all the inflatables netted off. We were playing in 108-degree temperatures out there. We went out there and crushed it. And we were in the finals against Aftershock, which is a world-renowned team. And we ended up killing these guys, and the refs were wiping them off. As they're getting shot, they're cleaning them off. People on the outside see the refs.
Really?
Just so they wouldn't lose. Yeah. I got disgusted.
Was this televised?
Oh, yeah. Well, back then it wasn't, but it was all videotaped. It was videotaped. And back then, like paintball today, you could watch it live stream on a computer.
You think the rest were paid off?
Oh, no, yeah, they're friends.
Yeah.
They're all friends.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
They're like, who are these guys? Team Eclipse coming around. And they hated it, you know, the England guys because they were taking over the market with their guns. And till today, they're still number one gun in the world. You know, the Eclipse, you know, they had the Shocker. Now they have the Ego, which is, that thing is the number one shooting gun right now. I think that thing goes for like $3,000 and it shoots like 40 balls a second. It's like a stream of paint. When that thing shoots, you could see it looks like a painted line when you're looking at the side of it. 40 balls a second.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all computerized, digitally touched, face recognition, like all computerized. Back then, we weren't shooting computerized guns. You know, I went through the era of computerized, you know, pneumatic guns all the way up to computerized guns.
The Navy SEALs actually practice with paintballs.
They do. Yeah.
And then they started using a laser tag almost type of.
Yes, because it's cheaper. It's
way
cheaper.
more advanced.
Yeah, way more advanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. Yeah.
Where's paintball stand nowadays? Is this popular? It was
Very popular, yeah. I got a lot of guys that they still want me to come back and play. I played last year. I went out and played a tournament. They wanted me to pay, you know, fully play, just get out there on the field, and they wanted me back, you know, because I was the big dog back then. They're like, oh, I'm going to bring Marcio back. One of my students, Dale Costa, he's actually an older guy. He's still playing paintball, and he played with me back in the day. So he plays for all these teams that actually sponsor him to play. So he's like, I think, and everybody asks about me, like, you see, I heard you're training under Marcio, and wow, I can't believe you're still talking to him. That kid's a beast. It's like, I should probably get him back here for a couple games. So I went to play a couple games, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
But here I am, 48 years old, and these young kids, right, say, Marcio, you're running to the 50. We want you up in the front. Oh, here I am, 48. These kids out sprinting me. They want me up in a 50-yard line off the break. And I'm getting there at my age, and I'm shooting people out. And then they're like, we want you here with us. And I'm like, I can't do it. This is not, like, you know, I'm training for tournaments. I can't be blowing out my knees. Right. You know, I'm a fighter. I train, you know, world champions. I'm people getting ready for big tournaments, going to Dubai and competing. I can't be doing this foolish stuff anymore, you know. So, you know, I'm out. I'm out of it. I still love it, but just don't want nothing to do with it anymore.
Yeah. So after paintball, is that when you really got serious about jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. So you know, I started working back again. You know, still working with my father. I sold out. Had enough of that. Sold the business to a guy. He failed. He took over. Failed. That was when the price of oil was going up. So the paintballs were all oil based. Started getting really expensive.
Oh, wow.
Cases of paintball, you know, we used to be $45, got up to 80, 90. I'm like, nobody's going to play no more. Nobody's going to play. In that era, for 5 years, nobody played. Until after 2008, they started picking up again. So I got out perfect time. Nothing to lose. Didn't lose anything. Took off out of it. And I went to, I started working again, getting depressed, you know. Just depression again set in. And
Working construction?
Working construction, getting heavy, you know. I ended up getting like 230.
Did you feel like a lot of pressure on you to get out of that life? Like, what
Yeah,
am I gonna
yeah.
do? Like, anxiety almost, where you're thinking,
Yeah.
this is a waste of my time.
My father promised me, you know, the rental company. At that point, he was pulling out of construction. He was going to the rental phase, you know, building multi-million-dollar company. And he's like, oh, you know, I'm going to give you half of this. Come over here. But I stayed there for a year, and I looked at it, and I was like, and this is, you know, going through there, playing paintball and everything. Now I'm like 35, right? I'm playing paintball till the 30s, and then work construction, back to construction again for a couple of years, and now I'm at 35 years old, and I'm like, I told my wife, I said, I'm going back to fighting. I'm going back. I want to fight. You know, I want to get back. You know, get back on those mats and do what I used to do that I was good at, fighting. She's like, you're crazy. You know, you're nuts doing that. And so we went out to dinner with my father, and my father's like, you ready for the big job we're starting tomorrow? And my wife's looking at him. I'm looking at him, and I'm like, she's like, tell him what your stupid idea is now.
Wow.
You know, just like that.
She threw you right on.
Yeah, oh yeah. I
Threw you right
like,
under the bus.
and he's looking at me with that face, right? And my wife goes, you want to go back to fighting? My father just put his head down, just in disgust, you know. And I did. You know, the next day I was looking for a gym, and I went to go train. And I remember that day, Kenny Florian was there, Mauricio Shogun Rua. All those UFC fighters were doing a seminar at a local school up in Wareham. You know, they were just trying to bring people in, so they paid these guys to come in. And I walked in, brought my son, and I remember we went to do the seminar, and they're like, man, this kid's good. You know, where's this kid come from? And I'm like, oh, I got a judo background. So he's like, oh, why don't you grapple that guy over there? So I went over there, grappled him. You know, the kid was like a high-level purple belt. I ended up, you know, shoulder throwing him, landing on top of him, and the kid takes my back, chokes me out. I was like, what the hell just happened? What just happened? 35 years old, right? I'm like, I just got choked out. So stood up, fought him again, threw him down again, choked me out again. I says, wow. I says, now I'm going to get serious. I started getting mad, you know. I'm like, no, this can't be, you know. And this kid's getting mad because I'm taking him down every time, and he couldn't do nothing about it. So I took him down again, and he choked me out again. And I was like, and I'm fucking pissed off now. I'm like, dude, I had enough. And I went up to the instructor, the owner, and I'm like, I want to sign up right now. He goes, you liked it, huh? I says, no, I didn't like it. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I didn't like somebody taking my back and actually killing me. He goes, yeah, that's what it's about. You know, I was like, I would have been dead. If this was on the street, I would have been dead.
True, right.
You know what I mean? He goes, well, these guys are trained. You know, they've been training for years. You know, Kenny Florian. I mean, we train with each other. I says, well, I'm in. And from that point on, it's just a fire lit in me. I was like, this is it, you know. And within a couple months, I'm only killing everybody in there. And the instructor, I would go up, you know, I went up to him, and he says, what do you want? You know, what do you want out of this? I kept saying, why don't you wrestle with me, you know, grapple with me? And I went with him. He's a black belt. He ended up putting a beating on me, and I didn't care. I wanted to go with him. I wanted to fight him. And, you know, 2 years down the line, I'm on his back, choking him out. A black belt. I'm a blue belt, and I'm choking this guy out. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I read you achieved your black belt in 5 years.
5 years.
That's
5
amazing.
years. It's unheard of.
It's unheard of.
Yeah.
As they say, average is
5 years at that age. Yeah.
10 to 15 years to
Oh,
get a
yeah.
black belt.
As a blue belt, you know.
What's the mindset that you had? Like,
The
you must have had
mindset.
a drive
Yeah.
in
Because,
you
so you know
where
how the
you had to,
mindset started? The mindset started here. It was him. When I got on his back, and he goes, oh, you're getting so good. He goes, what do you want to go from here? I said, I want to be a world champion. That's what I said to him. I said, I want to be a world champion, Steve. And he started laughing at me. And he goes, you don't know what it takes to be a world champion. There's no world champions around here. You got to go out to like California, Brazil, train at the Mecca. And I looked at him. I said, I thought you were what I need. You're my coach. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know I could teach you, but, you know, world champion, forget about that. You know, do local competitions. I looked at him in the eyes. I said, you ever win a tournament in your life? And he goes, no. I says, have you ever fought in your life? He goes, no. I says, I'm at the wrong school, buddy. I'm at the wrong school. And I went home, and I told my wife, I said, I don't care if we lose everything. I don't care. I says, I'm done. House could go. Everything's going. I'm not working. We're going to California, and then I'm going to Brazil, and I'm going to go train there. She's like, what? And she's pregnant, and she's like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? I'm like, my mind's I said, I'm winning worlds. I'm going to win a world title. I don't care. And she's like, oh. And when I get something into my head, she knew it. It was either divorce me or go, because I was going to do it, you know. So we'd go live in California so kids would get out of, Marciano would get out of school, my oldest son, and then from June to like mid-September till they go back to school, we were in California. And I was training every day, 3 times a day. That's where I met like Eddie Bravo. I trained under him. I met all the big names. Joe Rogan, training with Joe Rogan, trained with all those guys. Everybody that's big names today, that's who I was training with. You know, so I started with all these guys, just growing up through the ranks. Yeah, pretty crazy. I got tons of pitches and achieved my black belt in 5 years. It was pretty insane. You know, 2014 got my black belt, and I won a world title. Right before that, as a brown, I won my first world title. Nobody could believe it. You know, I went out to Worlds out in California, flew out all by myself.
How many matches?
6 matches.
6 matches?
Yeah. 6 matches all by myself, and I just, and I still remember the first fight, I fought the Japanese national champ, and that's a big picture we have on my gym wall, that big picture of me choking him out. So that was my first fight. I ended up beating him, and when I beat him, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Then I fought the Australian champ, and I remember that fight so clear as day. Is the guy ended up taking my back, and he had a choke in so deep, and he had his hooks in, and hooks. He had the whole 9 yards, and I was turtled up on my knees and arms, and I'm thinking in my head, I was like, well, I had a good run. I really didn't train for this. These guys deserve it. And I'm just going to go home and say I give it my best, but I'm here. Nobody ever made it to Worlds. I'm here fighting. You know, I gave it a good run, and he's about to choke me out. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, fuck this shit. I says, this guy can't beat me like that. And I remember I peeled him off. I spun around, guillotined him. He tapped underneath me. The ref didn't see it. I got up and raised my hand. The ref looks at me and goes, what happened? He looks at the guy. The guy's getting his breath back. He's looking up at the ref on his knees. He goes, what happened? I says, he tapped. He looks at the guy. He goes, did you tap? He looks at me. He goes, no. Oh, man, I was so pissed. I did it again. Choked him out. And after that, I ran through everybody in the fight. Ran through everybody. Every single fight, I choked everybody out. Yeah.
What drives you to work hard, and how do you prepare to be mentally tough, which has led you to become a world champion?
Just my father. My father, and I, don't want to go back to all that, but he really emphasized the work. It's like there's no success unless you wake up every day and you train or you do everything 100% every single day. And he used to tell me that. He goes, you can't have paintball, you can't fight and work this business.
Oh, so that motivated you, just the fact that he doubted you.
He doubted me. He doubted me. And he says, you can't do none of that. You can't. You got to give 100% to one thing. Get out of here. You don't belong here. Go do what you want. Leave me alone. Let me run my business before you kill my business. That's what he said to me. So I went off. And I remember when I won that Worlds, and he called me and he cried. And the first time I ever seen him cry, he said, I can't believe what you just did. He goes, man, I have so much respect for you for what you did. This is unbelievable. Like, I remember that conversation I had with him driving. It was pretty impressive with all the other stuff going through my phone after winning that tournament, all alone out there and feeling that energy, and it just, the hard work. And I just remember him telling me hard work. So I put in hard work 7 days a week. There's no stopping. There's no resting. I just left class right now. I just trained from 5. I did the kids class. I just ran the 6 o'clock class this morning. I ran a 2-hour class that I trained. Man, every day I train. Weightlift, and I train, do my strength and conditioning workout, and I do it every day. I'll do it Sunday. Wake up early. I'll go Sunday to the gym, train. I just don't stop.
As a fighter, you get to Worlds. Yeah. You said, I'm getting there. You got there.
Well, he won 2.
Right, three. But he got there. And as a fighter, what goes through your mind? I mean, I'm not a fighter. He's not a fighter. You get into fights in the street, completely different. But there's, you're studying your opponent, whatever the case is. What is going through your mind to be mentally tough, to be like, I'm going to go in that fucking ring and I'm going to tear this guy apart? What are you thinking? How do you prep yourself? Is there nerves? Do you feel nervous?
Absolutely. The doubt is the worst. So everybody has the adrenaline, right, of fighting and the fear. But for me, it became more of fear of losing, and doubt. So that all goes through my house. Doubt. Am I ready for this? Yes, I am ready for this. I know I am. I'm going out there. I fought the best in the world, and I've beaten him, you know, and no other guy that's going to stand in front of me is going to be able to beat me. But then there's still the doubt. You get the little bit of doubt. So even though the doubt becomes 10% and the confidence is 90%, you still have doubt, right? And then you have the adrenaline before the fight, before you fight. But the adrenaline, everybody thinks it's before the fight. You have the adrenaline as you're training too. So whenever you think about you're going to Worlds or your next fight, the adrenaline starts. Every single time. When you start getting the butterflies in your stomach, that's adrenaline.
So,
you know,
when you play your first match, you said you had 6 matches in that first
Yeah.
Worlds, right? Does that feeling does it stay that way through the whole tournament as far as coming up and down, up and down?
Yeah.
Each
You always
match?
get that adrenaline dump all the time, no matter what fight. So you feel weak. You feel like you just fought 10 guys after one match because you're feeling that. You're feeling the tingle, the weakness. You know, and I know the guy's feeling the same thing. You know
So
what I mean?
on your path to the Worlds the first time, did it ever cross your mind? Did it echo in your head constantly? Your wife telling your dad, "Tell him about your stupid idea," and your dad saying, "Are you crazy?" Just his disappointment in his face at that time. Did that ever cross your mind?
No.
Was that motivation for you?
Nope, not at
No,
all.
no.
I'm already way past that. In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, way back, yeah. But now, you know, there's nothing. It's just, you know, the fear of losing. Like, I can't lose to this guy. You know, I can't lose. But now it got better. After the years go by, it starts getting a little better, and the focus becomes stronger. You know, everything gets a little better. Like, for example, December of Worlds, this past year, I wasn't supposed to fight Worlds. We had COVID. I hardly trained. I didn't even train hard. But my instructor, Cyborg, came down. He came down for a seminar in September, and he's like, "You're doing Worlds, right?" I'm like, "I'm not ready, Cyborg, to do Worlds." He goes, "You're always ready. You've got to be ready to fight every day. There's no training camp. You should be ready to get out there and fight every day. You should be ready no matter what." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, you're right." So I didn't really even train, and we had, you know, teaching and the COVID and getting fines for opening up, all this going through my head. I'm like, man, this is just unbelievable. And here we are flying out in December. And I remember, you know, we went in December. My son came down. We spent Christmas down. So this was before Christmas. This was on the 12th, December 12th. We flew down, and my son's with me, and our Range Rover. Right, I have a house in Delray Beach, and I was going to drive 3 hours to Orlando to fight. So we were fighting at the Silver Spur Arena. So I was leaving Saturday morning early. My first fight was at 9. I was supposed to leave the house like 5:30 to get there. I wake up around 2 o'clock in the morning with something in the house. Something happened. Now I'm in Florida at my house. Something like woke me up, but I went right back to bed. 4 o'clock, I couldn't sleep anymore, so I get up and I walk to the bathroom. And I look at my phone, and I'm like, holy shit, what's all these alarms going off on my Nest? I look at the camera, and I see my Range Rover drive off. They stole my Range Rover out of my driveway.
Wow.
Yeah, my son left the keys, him being a cop, right, leaves the keys in the cup holder in a gated community. These kids got in, stole my Range Rover. This is the morning I was supposed to fight. So luckily, my father was coming down a couple of days later, so I already had a rent-a-car there, so we had a second car ready to go. But, you know, people don't understand in your head. You have to have the focus, because who would have left their wife home with a daughter without a car, and with a car stolen, now police there, crime scene there, checking the fingerprints. At 5 o'clock in the morning, my neighbor got his wallet stolen out of his car by these same kids. We're watching everything on the camera, and I'm telling my son, Marciano, we got to go. We got to go. I got fights to go do. So here I am driving, you know, thinking about all this going on. My wife calling me like, we got to see if we could get the GPS tracking from the Range Rover. I'm like, everything's closed right now. How are you going to talk to the guy? All this going on in my head, and here I am. When I get there 10 a.m., I better be ready for my first match.
At what point do you shut down and say, you know something, what happened? You know, like you said, you leave your wife, a child. At what point do you get to the fight and say, I gotta put that behind me, because it's your family, right? Yeah. It's something happened. At what point do you shut down and change from husband, father, to that caring, you know, protector of the family, to I'm a fighter and now I need to go kick this fucking guy's ass?
Yeah. When I say it is, when it's time to leave, when the time's to leave, I go. It's plain and simple. So at that time, I looked at my clock. Cops were inside the house taking the reports. I'm like, I gotta go. It's time to go. And that's when it's time to fight. There's nothing else. Get in the car and you go. And that's it. And that's the decision's already made, right? That you're gonna fight when you enter. You know, so mine's made up. I ain't turning back. No matter what happens, I'm fighting. You know, so you have to just shut everything out, and you gotta go do what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go fight. We're gonna go fight because I have a world title to win. You know, and that was my third. That's when I got my third world title. I ran through everybody that day too. You know, that was live streamed with the whole team watching. I think, you know, your son maybe watched it on a TV. And you know, I'm a fighter. At first, that's my job. You know, my job is to fight. There ain't nothing else. Just like another day, you know, I think you do roofing, right? You got to get up no matter what's going on. Exactly, you got to get that job done. Yep. There ain't nobody cares. That person doesn't care that you're doing that job for. You can't call him, I got COVID, I can't come today. That guy doesn't care. He wants his roof done. Right. He doesn't care if your wrist is broken. He wants that roof done. Doesn't matter. You tell him, hey, I'm sick today. I don't think I can make it. What do you mean you can't make it? Who's the other guy? Oh, hey, listen, I got COVID. Yeah, so what time you getting here? Right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I
mean, before this part, we were having a little camera technical difficulty, and I said, I got a great guest coming on. I got to figure it out, right? Yeah. So we figured it out. So I was going to call you and be like, hey, by the way, can we reschedule? It would be bullshit.
We figure it out. We figure it out.
Yeah, you figure it out.
You know, and that's the beauty about, you know, jiu-jitsu is we figure out the problems. That's why I tell everybody, I've changed so many people's lives that, man, you could go into my gym and start interviewing people, and they're going to tell you how their life changed dramatically, from firefighters, lawyers, doctors, how we've changed their life. Grown men that are successful already, we changed how they're living. You know, we got people just on different paths right
women
now.
Too, Marcio.
Oh, tons of women. Tons of women.
Self-defense, it's great.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Great thing you're doing.
3 women signed up today just from a trial class. Yeah,
just from a personal experience. My son, Logan, he's in Marcio's school, and the amount of calmness he has now, like shoulders back, confidence, and just calm at school. His brain is opened up where he is an A+ student right now.
Well, absolutely. I see it. The growth. And
his grades were at A+. It's almost like it's a sport where it opens up your mind, like you said, to get out of a problem.
Exactly.
And it's constant pressure.
Exactly.
And I told my son, as long as you're calm, take a deep breath and get yourself out of it.
Yep.
Believe in the coaching that you're getting there.
That's right.
Instead of being intimidated by the belt.
Yep.
Or
that's right.
The size of the person
that's
that
right.
he's up against.
Yep. And I tell them.
First, Jamie, that kid was getting his ass.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They all do.
Over that mat.
They all do. And I tell them.
And I was like, man, I actually admire my kid.
Yeah.
Because he kept getting up.
He kept getting up.
And kept going.
That's right.
And kept trying. Even though he get his ass kicked. One time he almost freaking got choked out so bad his neck was
That's right.
I said, you got it tap. Live for another day. He was like, I don't want to quit, Daddy. I said,
that's right.
You're at practice, Logan. That's how you get better.
You know? And that's what I tell the kids. We have talks with them every day after class and talk about the bullying part of it and how life goes. I says, jiu-jitsu is just like a problem. You know, when you're working, when you don't want to get up to go to that job that day because you have a problem over there that you know it's going to get worse when you get there, but you need to solve it. Same thing when you're doing jiu-jitsu. When the guy has your back, he has his hooks in, he has a arm around your neck, you got to figure out how to get out of that problem. You don't quit. You don't tap. When you're getting pressured, the guy has you in side control, mount, you need to figure out that problem. And that's a problem you need to solve. Mm-hmm. You know, and I tell them, life is going to be like that. Life's going to put that strangle on you, and you need to fight out of it. And that's what jiu-jitsu is. That's why we have jiu-jitsu. That's why it's called a lifestyle. And it made me so calm because I was such an aggressive kid growing up. Anybody look at me wrong, I'm ready to kill. You know, I got a short fuse, short fuse. You know, anybody just look at me and I'm like, what's your problem? I'm so humble now, you know, so humble. I talk to people, you know, I got people getting in my face and I just tell them, buddy, I know you're having a bad day. Just go that way. You're having a bad day today. Go. What do you mean? You're just having a bad day. Go that way before your day gets a lot worse.
Right.
You know, it gets a lot worse. Just go. Relax. Chill out.
What are the differences, like, versus the kids? I'm talking about the kids' classes. With the parents in the gym and with the parents out during COVID.
What a difference.
Explain a little bit how that affects the
So
kids.
before, if you don't mind, because we went from jiu-jitsu, but let's talk about, because you went from world champion, you know, 3-time world champion, to now you have a jiu-jitsu school where you teach kids. If you don't mind me cutting into that. So when did you get to that, and how did that all come about?
So it was pretty crazy. When I was a purple belt, so, you know, you get stages. You got white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown, and then black. You know, your purple belt, you're usually in there for like 4 to 5 years, just in a purple belt. Blue belt, you could be in there 3-4 years also. I just killed through these belts because every single belt I was fighting pans, worlds. I would go in and I would win everything, you know. So as a purple belt, I had left my instructor, you know, like when I was a blue belt at the end, he had given me my purple because I won everything. He just gave it to me. He's like, man, you know, you're killing it. I want you to come over here and teach at my school in Wareham. I want you to be part of our team, being an instructor. And I'm like, Steve, I'm done with you. You know, I'm done because you promised me I was just going to go fight at Abu Dhabi trials to go to Dubai. I went there alone without a coach. You never prepared me for it. So I went to the trials in New York. The trials in New York is the most prestigious grappling tournament in the world. You fight in Dubai. It's going on right now. You only get invited by the Sheikh of Dubai. Wow. He built a stadium just for jiu-jitsu because he was a brown belt back then. Now he's a black belt. But he built a stadium, and my coach is there right now, and he actually trains the Sheikh of Dubai, does privates for this guy and his whole regime. And you stay at his palace. When you're invited there, you stay at the palace. But you got to win the trials. The trials were at New York, most prestigious tournament of the world. People come from all over the world to the trials. You got to win to make it. You get a pay trip, stay with the Sheikh, you go over there, fight, you win, you get $100,000. So I went there all alone. Here I am, right? At the time, I was 37 years old, purple belt. I went over there for all the young kids. And I remember I went to this tournament all alone. I told my coach I was going to go fight it. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get you people to prepare. I told him 2 months ahead of time. I need outsiders to come in and fight and train me because you got nobody here. I'm going to do it. I remember the day before I was leaving, I was on those mats training. I was fighting on Saturday. I was there on Friday. I said, well, Steve, I'm leaving tomorrow to Dubai. Oh, is it tomorrow? Oh, man. I said, yep. I'll see you when I see you. And I went to the trials. I drove up with one of the teammates that came with me. He lost his first fight, Jimmy. He ended up losing his first fight in the trials. He was a purple belt too. And the guy, he was in a division up from me. He was in a heavier division. I was in a lighter division. So I go in, and people are looking at me stretching. And I remember the first guy I fought, I ended up guillotining him. I beat him. So it got the attention of Rafael Formiga, which is a world-renowned fighter right now. He opened up a school in Connecticut, ended up with 200 students. He packed up, went to Texas 3 years ago, and he has over 500 students at his school.
Which is nationality?
Now. He's Brazilian.
Formiga.
Rafael Formiga.
Yeah.
This guy's unbelievable. He's 8-time world champion. This guy's unbelievable. So he says to me, he goes, I just seen you fight. That guy's no joke. He goes, you just finished him in like a minute. And I says, really? I said, I didn't know who he was. He goes, where do you train? I said, I train in Boston. He goes, with who? And I says, Steve Whittier. He goes, you train with an American? He goes, I got to introduce you to my coach, the Deco. He's over there. So introduced me to him. He goes, hey, Marcio, nice to meet you. Start talking to me. He goes, man, you train under Steve Whittier? He goes, yeah, I train. He goes, I got a guy that comes up and does privates with me. That's an owner over there at Nexus. And I'm like, no, Steve Whittier. He goes, you do? He goes, no, I don't do it with him. I do it with the other owner, Cesar Barros. I said, Cesar Barros is not an owner there. He just trains there. He's trying for the UFC fights right now for the trials for the UFC. And he goes, really? He told me he was an owner. So now I know that everything's bullshit. That guy, I'm starting to put everything together at a tournament. I'm like, man, here I am at Dubai trials. I'm finding this out. He goes, where's your coach? I said, he's not here. He goes, oh, man, you're going to fight the Russian guy right now? He goes, that's your next match. He goes, that guy's no joke. He's a leg locker. He breaks everybody's feet. He goes, you got to watch out for that guy. I says, I won't let him touch my feet. So he goes and coaches me, and I submit the guy. Instantly, submit him. Catch his head, gone, done. My specialty was the guillotine, right? So I submitted him. Third fight, I go out there, submit the third guy. The Deco's going crazy. He's like, holy shit, this guy's winning everything, right? I ended up in the finals. I fight forget the guy's name. He has a school in New York right now. He was under Marcelo Garcia, and Jonathan Sataiva, that's him. He owns a school in New York now. The guy he ended up going to Dubai trials. I fight him in the finals. I lose to him. I lost to him by a ref's decision on points, and everybody was screaming like, he's like, man, you're an amazing kid, and he found out how I was 37 years old. Holy shit! He goes, you should be fighting in a master division. You're fighting adult division. So I always fought adult. I didn't care about the master division. I didn't care about fighting 30 over. I always fought the best of the best, So yeah, and from there on, I went to the Deco. I started driving from my house an hour every day to Boston to go train. That was my coach, and I trained under him. Won brown belt worlds. I got back from worlds. He promoted me in December of 2014. Following year was my debut as a black belt. I went to go fight a Carlson Gracie guy, which brought jiu-jitsu to United States. That was my first match. So here you go. Welcome to black belt. Yeah, I'm fighting a world-renowned guy, never lost match, Su Young. His name is Su Young. And very known. I says, hey, Dedeco, I'm going to fight Su Young. Oh, man. He goes, that guy never lost. And he goes, that guy's amazing. I went over there, fought him. He took my back. I got out of it. He took my back again. I got out of it again. And it ended up him beating me on points. And I was like, holy shit. I survived this guy. But he ended up winning the PANs. That was a Pan American game. He ended up winning the whole thing. And I lost my first round. I was out. Encountered him again later on at Nationals, gave him a hell of a fight, went to a ref's decision, no points on the board. Everybody was cheering for him. Carlson Gracie team, the ref gave it to him, but everybody knows I won that match. It was all videoed. It was like he got it because of popularity again. Yeah. And then I fought him again in Vegas at Worlds, and I beat him. I ended up beating him that same year. Later in the year, I ended up beating him. And I ended up winning Worlds that year. I went to San Francisco by myself again, went out there and just ran through everybody. And ended up winning. First year as a black belt, I won Worlds as a first-year black belt in 2015.
Did your fighting get better once you changed coaches?
Oh,
it makes a difference.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. More athletes, higher level guys on the mat. We had like 10 black belts every day on there.
It's who you trained with as well.
I was trained with all the black belts. So
that brings me to I want to let you take on Joe Rogan. Now he had St. Pierre on.
Yeah,
and they said, as far as training jiu-jitsu, if you fight a fighter that's your level or better, that helps your defense out.
Oh, yeah.
But if you fight maybe a rank or two lower than you, that helps your offense. Is that?
Yeah, it helps your technique. Absolutely, your attacking technique, yeah. Because the guy's less of a threat to you. So
you're willing to try.
You're getting your precise movement, the technique. Now you're fighting somebody at your level. Man, to submit that guy, you know how hard it is. So now you're working on position. When you're fighting a higher level guy, your focus is getting the position, getting the dominant position. Mm-hmm. And the submission comes if you get the dominant position. But your goal is to not get dominated, right? If you are getting dominated, don't let him submit you, And yeah, you work on your defense. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm always working.
But those techniques would work on a person that's, like if you're practicing against someone that's less experienced, and you bring those same techniques to a person that has experience, how does that line up? Is it just the technique and positioning that you're working on?
Yeah, you
and the body's the same, obviously.
Yeah, you gauge yourself. You got to gauge yourself. When you go with a lower belt, when I roll with all my students, that's amazing. A lot of black belts won't roll with lower belts. A lot of black belt instructors won't roll at all. They don't train. They just teach and they just watch everybody. I roll with all my students. I don't care who you are. And I give them their level. I play with them. I let them get their guard back. I let them get a leg back. I'll mount them. I'll give them the space for them to escape. I'll trap the arm, let the arm go. You play with these guys. You don't. And then as the higher level guys are, you start giving them more of that pressure. You start gauging yourself. You ratchet yourself back to their belt. So if I'm going to the white belt, I'll give them white belt. If I'm going to the blue, I'll give them that blue belt level. Going to the purple belt, I'll give them a purple belt level. If they're getting ready for competition, I smash the shit out of them, plain and simple. I get them tough, Mm-hmm. I just brought one of my purple belts I just promoted recently. He went in and fought purple belts that were 4 years into it, and he went out there and got second place right now at Darren. He just started training 4 years ago. He's fighting guys that have been training for 8 years. He lost by a simple little advantage point, which he won. The guy didn't want to fight. His coach told him, just hold, don't move, don't move anymore. Just hold, just don't do anything. Don't let him get out of that. And my guy was actually in a dominant position, and the ref just didn't give him the points. It was crazy, Some of the refs just see it other ways. But to me, in my eyes, he won that battle. He won the fight, and he showed where he belongs. It's pretty impressive when you see. I get more nervous watching my students fight.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
The euphoria of winning 3 worlds on your own.
Yeah.
How do you think you would compare that if you have a student who wins a worlds?
Oh man, that's what I want. That's more important to me. That's more important to me.
You think the rush would be bigger?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
Really?
You feel like that would be a legacy for you?
Oh, way better. That's what I want. If somebody says, listen, you want to win worlds yourself, or do you want your partner?
Your school representative.
I want him to win. Right. I'll give him the goal. After I lost, I just fought in my last fight? Orlando Open. I just fought Orlando Open. I went to Texas with an pneumonia. I fought that. I lost a tough battle in the finals. Ended up in second. That came out to a ref's decision, 0-0 score. I did a lot more work. We got it on video. All the coaches seen it. Says, man, you got ripped off on that one. That was you. Fought with a pneumonia. And still submitted all my guys. That last guy had a battle to the finish. He only had 2 fights. I had 4 fights. He was ready for me. I was dead by the time I fought him, and I lost to that. Then I came back and I went to the Orlando Open. I was already feeling a little better. Lungs are still bad from the COVID I got back in February 12th. Mm-hmm. Then I got pneumonia from that because I kept training after they out of quarantine. So I fought there, and same thing. I submitted all my guys, and I lost to a tough ref decision too. I mean, that's the way it goes. But I wanted my guy to win. I was like, man, give him the gold. You know, I got second. I want him to win the gold. You know, and I was nervous for that fight. I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm coaching, I'm yelling at his coach for holding him. You know, it's just like it's the adrenaline. Just
wow,
yeah,
from the sideline.
From the sideline, you're going nuts. You're ready to fight. You know, you're ready to beat up his coach. Like literally, it gets ugly. And I'm calling him names. I'm like, you should tell your guy to have a piece of cake tonight for Darren because he deserves it, not him. I say, you know, and I'm like in his face, like. You know, like, how do you not have your guy fight? This is a fight. How do you telling your guy that's in a bad position to just lay there because he's up on a point? Just don't let him submit him. Don't let him submit so he doesn't win the fight. Come on. What kind of shit is that? Right, you know? Right. Yeah, it's a strategy, but that ain't the way I teach my guys. I teach my guys finish the fight. When I fight, I'm looking for that finish.
You're
I don't
not
play
looking
on
for
points.
the judges, right?
No, I'm not looking for judges. I want to win. You know? If I win and I'm on top of the guy, I won. And every time I lose, you know what? I'm on top, and I'm smashing that guy.
And as a spectator, I want to see a fight, right?
Yeah.
Not somebody sit there and
Exactly.
strategize.
Exactly.
And be like,
I don't
okay.
like that stalling
Right.
game. I don't like that. You know, I'm a true believer in the best of the world right now. They talk about it. Submission fighting, all these watered down schools. These guys are a bunch of punks, you know, teaching these guys how to stall the fights. Fight to submit.
You think that's the new era?
Yeah.
Stalling?
No.
No.
That's the old era. Things are changing right
Yeah.
now, big time. A lot of money being paid to the fighters now.
So you mentioned like refs, you know, because they popularity and stuff like that. You think there's crooked refs?
Absolutely,
yeah,
100%, 100%. No doubt in my mind. I see it. You know, I see it every day. You know, we see it every tournament we go to. Either you know they're bringing the. Because of COVID, a lot of people are trapped in Brazil. A lot of the refs from Brazil, the really guys I know, so they're hiring these guys. Taking these online courses of what they look for, and then they get guys from Texas that do jiu-jitsu. They ask the schools, they're like, hey, you got any guys that want to come ref higher belts? Oh, yeah, I'll put my guy in there. And then they come and ref the mat, and guess what? Their coach is out there fighting, and that's the guy I fought against. You know, that's the guy I fought against.
And that's allowed?
You know, yeah, and it ain't supposed to be, but they just pretend like they don't know him.
No, right.
On that mat that day was one of my fighters from Miami. So Juan was on that mat reffing. He had fought early in the day, and then he went to reffing because he gets paid for it. He's coming from Miami. He works for the federation. He was right there. He's like, he seen me walk on. He went to the next mat, and he says, hey, I can't ref. My guy's on there. So he put the other ref on. So the other guy goes on, not even ask him, hey, you know any of these guys? No. So they give it to, you know, the guy that has, you know, owns the biggest school in Texas that's fighting, me. He lets him go and ref the guy. So how am I going to win to that when his whole team's over there yelling and cheering, and only it's my wife and probably, because we're traveling, 10 of my guys compared to a whole stadium.
Right.
You know, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So happens.
So now you have a jiu-jitsu school and teaching. What's the age levels that you teach there?
Oh, so before that, 2012, I opened up. So as a purple belt, when I met this Deco guy, he goes, you should open up your own school down in that area. He goes, you're more fit to teach. I'm not a black belt. He goes, it's okay. So 2012, I'm a purple belt. I already had won all kinds of tournaments.
Is that the standard in your business? In jiu-jitsu, you have to be a black belt to teach?
Yeah, now that's the new rules. Yeah, but back then it wasn't. So I was a purple belt when I opened up my first school, you know, and it was a struggle, paying rent out of my pocket. But I just wanted a place to grapple. And a lot of people left with me, different schools, and I just wanted to train adults, and I just wanted to train. So what I would do is just open up my mats just for us to go out and do jiu-jitsu, call over the guys, get ready for fights. And, you know, some guy knocked on the window one time. I had the door locked. My wife was there, happened to be there. It's like, hey, what's going on? Oh, my son's interested. He was a firefighter. He goes, my son's interested in training. And I'm like, no, I don't train kids. And my wife goes, come on, you could do it. Why not? Before you know, I got an army of kids coming in. And that's how the business actually started. 2012, it went from 10 kids, and the next week, adults started joining, and then,
That's
it grew.
the place on Kempton, right?
No, that was on Tarkin Hill.
Oh.
Tarkin Hill, behind my father's building. I rented, I had a deal with a guy. He had a granite company in there. They beat up his place. One day he showed up over there. He owned the whole building. He showed up over there. They were gone. They packed up all this stuff. Owned them about 6 months of rent. Just packed up and left. The guy Guatemalans. They just took off. Mm-hmm. Left the place a mess. The old man was like, "Oh my God, look at my place." So, me being a nice neighbor, I'm like, "I'll go in there and power wash all this place for you. I'll help you out, John." John Lazat. He owned the whole building, and it was two halves. It was 6,000 square foot on one side, 6,000 on the other. I says, "How much you give me this place for? Me help you. I'll give it to you for $2,000 a month." So here I am, not making any money out of jiu-jitsu, but paying $2,000 a month just to have my own place to grapple. But then it started growing. In 1 year, we had to expand into the Kempton Street. That's when I moved over because I couldn't afford the whole place myself. So I brought in some fitness trainer. He had his own fitness gym. He wanted to do CrossFit, so he took over half of the place. Then a boxing took over another quarter of the place, and I had a little 800 square foot little section. That's what I had. So we all split the rent. I paid $700, and that's how we did it. And then in a year, I'm like, I need a bigger place, so I moved to Kempton Street, and that was a 2,500 square foot facility. Filled that up within 3 years, and the money we made out of that, we were pumping about like probably $100,000 a year. I ended up buying a piece of property in front of my father's building that they had for sale. It was actually my father's. I bought it off of my father, and I put my own building up. So I put my own building, 6,000 square foot facility building. We started that one 3 years ago. I built that with my own hands. Me and my wife and my dad, we worked there every day. We started in July putting up the steel. I was open January 1st.
That's great.
We did all the work ourselves.
Good timing.
Just hammer, sheetrock, plastering, everything. We just... I remember having surgery December 10th. I had a stone stuck in my track, and I'm peeing blood like crazy, out of it. And my wife goes, "You got to go to the hospital." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to no hospital." And it brought me to the neurosurgeon there, the guy that does the thing. He looks at it, he goes, "Yep, you need surgery." I'm like, "All right, I'll see you after New Year's." And he goes, No, now. I'm like, "No, I can't." So he goes, "No, you need now." He goes, you get an infection, you're done. He goes, "Ain't no next year, you're done." So I'm in a hospital the next day. He goes in there, boom, pulls out takes the stone out of there, boom. And I wake up, and he's like, "Are you all right?" He goes, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I got to go. I got to get out of here. Release me." No, I got to go now. Like, get a nurse. I got to go to my gym. So here I am. My wife grabs me. I'm all dazed out. He gives me perks. I don't take none of that. I make a little scooter out of a bucket with little wheels. I sit down. My wife's giving me the tiles, and I'm tiling the bathrooms, the locker rooms, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to go pee." I run over to the shower area. Huh?
Blood everywhere.
I go to the shower area. I have a string hanging out of my dick.
I had that done too, bro.
I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
Let me tell you, when they take out that string, right?
No, they didn't take it out. I took it out.
You did?
Oh, right there. I'm like, what is this? I yanked it out.
You need the stent in there.
No, I pulled it right out.
Yo.
Yep.
You need a stent. I don't know. You're nuts, bro.
I pulled it right out.
When that fucking nurse took it out, it feels like you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah, because
it
heals. Because it heals. It heals in there. That's why. It starts healing. So when I went to go pee, I got freaked out and seen that thing. I thought he forgot. I'm like, what the hell? I yanked it out, blood everywhere, right? My wife goes, "No, you were supposed to keep that." Nobody said nothing. I said, "Oh, my God. Freaking give me a Band-Aid. I got to give me a Band-Aid of this shit, right? I got to go
with
back
some
to
gauze.
Yeah, I got that done. It was the worst experience of my life.
Shit.
Oh.
Yeah, here I am,
stones.
man.
I hate kidney
Oh,
stones.
man.
I never had that. They thought I had a kidney stone. They went up with a catheter when my first piss had burned.
Oh, my
but I never had that.
No, because it's surgery.
Yeah.
If you don't pass it on your own, they gotta go and get it.
Yeah. And I'm always dehydrated from training so much as water.
See, what happened with me was I was on this protein, all protein,
that's what gets you.
And green spinach.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that kills you. Sweet potatoes, all that stuff.
I had I passed I think all of them now.
Oh, man.
But back then I developed 4.
That's crazy.
One at a time.
And then you piss like sand then afterwards.
No, mine came out.
Oh, because that's when they break it up.
They break it up. Yeah.
The times I passed it peeing, it was like a rock.
Oh,
Bing, right off the toilet bowl.
Oh,
I'm
my
like,
God.
oh shit!
Yeah, I never
is.
had that. No, but man,
Yeah,
So now then we built the school, and man, the school exploded. Before COVID started, man, we had 300 students in that place already.
So let me ask you a question. You've been in business for a long time, and the culture of the world is pretty much been changing every year.
Man.
What it's been like as a business owner dealing with, all right, let's go parents, from when you first started till now, and the change of humanity, let's say.
It's crazy. I don't even know how to start with that. So we lost a lot of people, during the pandemic. I think that's when it all started, was already at the pandemic. That's when you started seeing the true colors of people. You started seeing,
really?
Oh yeah, that's when it started. I lost so many students because of my beliefs and what I would say.
Political beliefs?
Yeah, just about COVID, what I thought about it. I would say one little thing on Facebook, then I'm having an argument with somebody, and then they would just delete me. And it was students. I must have lost about 30 students that won't come back to my gym anymore.
Children.
Because no, adults.
Oh, really?
Adults.
Yeah.
So it's not even parents making the
it's
decision.
adults.
It's actual adults.
Adults that don't have the same mind as me. And I'm glad they're gone. I'm glad I seen those colors. I'm glad they're gone. Either they hate cops. Man, I got into a fight with four guys because they hate cops. They hated cops.
Oh, because the political environment of what was going on.
That's when it all started. March, that pandemic, think about it. What went, all the race things, May with Floyd, and all these things breaking down, the hate just came out. But before that, I never had problems with parents. Literally, growing up from, 2012 till 2020 when this all started, man, life was good. I never had problems with parents. What we do have with parents is, of course, you always get them coming in. They're like, hey, can I talk to you? My son's acting up at home. I brought him over here so he could get, have the respect. I said, whoa. No. I teach him respect here in the gym. I said, I'm with your kid an hour a day. I teach him respect on a mat, respecting his fellow teammates, his instructors, teaching him respect of his friendships and team, not to disrespect any of his friends. He says, you're at home. You teach him the respect. That's not my job. So I had a lot of conversations with people, make them understand that what you do at home, you need to teach your kids. I can't instill that in them. That's a whole different respect. That's a whole different thing. You're going to start taking away things from these kids. Like, giving them pointers like, does he play games? Oh, yeah, he goes to his room. Take that away. Stop taking these things away. You don't punish him with jiu-jitsu. You don't say, hey, you know what? You're not going to jiu-jitsu today. No, because they don't want to go to jiu-jitsu.
Right.
That's stupid.
Do you find that with single moms, with like the dad not around or something?
Yes. I find that more with single parents. Absolutely. That's
at what point does a student, at what level of something stupid they did that you would say, hey, listen, you're not welcome at this school anymore because you're not representing us or whatever as a student or as a person outside this. I mean, or would you just say, something, he's a kid or whatever the case is, we'll work with him on that basis? Because at the end of the day, like you said, you're with them an hour a day.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably respect you, look up to you. They're going to respect you within your building, your classes.
Yeah.
But when they're in their own little world and they act up, I don't know if they...
Yeah, we never had that. To tell you the truth, a kid never acted up in my school. I never had to kick a kid out because of him acting up. I've kicked kids out because of their parents.
Yeah. So if a student got involved with something criminally outside of the school,
yeah, that's different.
Would you have you ever or would you tell a student, hey, listen, you're not welcome here because that's not how we operate?
We had one kid way back at the old gym. It was probably 2015. He was a good student of mine, little kid, young kid. He had his mother took him away for a little while, and then he came back. And when he came back, he ended up stealing money out of somebody's wallet in the locker room. And that person ended up knowing he had money in there. And the guy was, he's in the military, and he knew. And somebody actually went into the locker room and seen the little kid like acting suspicious and hiding the money. So yeah, we found that, and of course, I talked to his mother and said, I just don't want him, back in here. That was, bad what he did. But if he does come back, I want to really, take care of him. I says, because you're letting this kid just go on the street, and you're not taking care of him. You're just going off with new guys and not taking care of this kid. Like, you're letting him run free. The kid's 14 years old. You're letting him run free. And sure enough, my son ended up turning him in. He was caught in a shooting, about a year ago. Now the kid's in custody. He's in juvenile detention because he shot up at somebody.
Right.
So that's what it turned out to be. Of course, that kid will never come back to me. I see his mother on Facebook here and there, living her life, not even caring that the kid's in trouble, And I see all that with all three of their kids. One of them just overdosed. So, yeah, the trend happens,
I want to switch gears a little to MMA fighting. UFC, all that. So the Brazilians were, at the top of the world in that game. And maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like they've, the Gracies and all that. It's what happened. It just doesn't seem there. It's different cultures now. You got the Russians, different parts of the world that seem to be dominating the UFC, and it isn't just so much the Brazilians. Where before it was, you're Brazilian, you were a badass, and you were dominating that
the
sport.
Russians are gaining ground too, though.
Right.
Well, that all comes back to them learning jiu-jitsu, right? So all these guys know jiu-jitsu. So all the best fighters of the world, that's their game, is jiu-jitsu. Came out, everybody knows it now. Everybody knows it. Everybody's training it. American Top Team in Coconut Creek. You go down there. All these, they know how to defend against it. Even though they don't want to use jiu-jitsu, they're using the striking to knock people out. They know the ground game. So to submit those guys at that level, or even take them down, is going to be impossible, right? So yeah, it started with the Brazilians knowing the secret, right, of jiu-jitsu to where they are today. It's just like a jiu-jitsu right now. And you could start jiu-jitsu today, any of you. And you could go into the school and I could start teaching you leg locks. Right off the bat, just teach you how to do a leg lock. You don't know nothing about basic jiu-jitsu, but I'll teach you 4 or 5 leg locks. And I could put you with the guy training 4 years and you'll probably be submitting the guy with a leg lock. Why? Because nobody knows the defense. It's so new and nobody knows the defense, right? So that's what jiu-jitsu was back then. Nobody knew how to cope with jiu-jitsu. Now everybody knows how to cope with jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Everybody.
Part of
it's
the
game.
fighting strategy.
It's the most. It's the game that you train the most. So UFC fighters, and I know I got guys that I train that go down to Craig Jackson's camp in New Mexico. I train at Fight Sports in Miami twice a month. I'm down there. That's why I have a house there. I bought a house down there so I could get closer to the team. Gilbert Burns is in there, Melendez, all those guys, UFC fighters we train with. So those guys are training every single day, 7 days a week in jiu-jitsu. And they spar probably twice a week with their hands. Maybe if that, because you can't train. You can't spar hard. These guys, everybody thinks, they're training their hands so hard. No, they're not. They're training very little because you get most injured is from the boxing. The sparring pause when you get injured. Jiu-jitsu, you could go 100% every single day, give everything you can, and not get hurt. Jiu-jitsu, you could do that. You could train 100%. You could train just like you're going to fight in the UFC. You could give 100%. I could go 100 miles an hour with you, sweat round, bang heads, go, and you're going to come out of there, boom, you're happy. But then you go down and you start sparring. I got a guy trained from Lebanon, right? He came with me 2 years ago. Big guy, undefeated fighter. He actually was going to sign with the UFC, but he went back to Lebanon after he trained at Craig Jackson's camp. He came through me, trained jiu-jitsu with me, then he went back to Lebanon. He got into a bar fight with 7 guys. He put them all in the hospital. UFC says, you can't fight under us. Never lost. His name is Bilou. I'll show you a picture of this guy. 330 pounds. Guy would have killed anybody
Just
in the
a
UFC.
monster.
A monster. I think he would beat the African guy. I actually know he would beat the African guy. The guy's dying to get into the UFC.
That would be an interesting fight.
You should see this guy. Yeah. So he was training down at Craig Jackson's camp, and he showed me all the sparring videos. And one day he knocked out John Jones. Knocked him out cold. Craig Jackson goes, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? You can't do that." He goes, I didn't even. You can't do that. You can't come out here to knock people out. That ain't how we train here. It's crazy. So he's like, wow. He thought it was about fighting hard. It's not. Yeah. It's about training technical,
right? Smart.
No, get hurt. Save it all for the ring.
For the ring. Yeah.
So
let one last question. We'll probably wrap this up. I could talk to you for another 3 hours.
We could talk all day long.
Where do you see yourself in 20 years from now?
Oh man, expanded. I mean, we're doing it right now. Gonna get another school up in Dedham. We got a guy joining our affiliation up in Dedham. He's already expanded to 200 plus students. He's getting a bigger place. So expansion is a big thing. I see myself with a whole bunch of world titles. Students under me with world titles. I'm probably gonna go for a couple more, and then I'm gonna call it quits. I'll fight Worlds this year in Vegas in September. I'm going to fight Pans May 15th, so that's a big one. It's like Worlds, no gi. So it's like no gi. It's like fighting the UFC. It's straight out, no kimono, no gis, no belts on. Fight shirt, no shirt. It's total submission tournament. So that's May 15th in Texas. I'm going to that one. So I'm going to fight hard this year. And then my goal is by the end of the year, open a school in Florida, in Port St. Lucie. Nice. I got a student that wants to go open one up over there. I just hired a guy for this gym here. He's one of my black belts. He's going to be, teaching. He's amazing with the kids, big time grappler, wrestler. Been with me for 12 years, for the 12 years. I brought him up right from the wrestling pedigree right to black belt. So he's going to be running classes while I'm going back and forth, getting that school established, and then come back here once that's running. Probably send one of my guys out that way and open up another school here in Rhode Island, maybe. But just expansion, just blow jiu-jitsu up. I want an army, kids and adults. That's all I see myself in. Really, there's nothing new.
You're retiring. You're retiring doing this.
Yeah, no property.
No,
I don't want to invest. I don't want to invest in property. I don't. I already got a nice building. I got offered a couple million to buy it out on me, and I don't want to sell. I just want to train people.
When I retire, I'm going to take it up because I don't have to get up and do sheetrock the next day.
Oh yeah, you'd be hurting.
Think I'll be hurting?
Oh yeah, you'd be sore. But you'd have fun. You do the beginner classes. You'd have a blast doing it. It actually loosen you up, make you more physical, stronger. Your breathing would get way better, But yeah, I see myself always getting to that next level. I ain't stopping. I don't care. You could do jiu-jitsu till you're 80, 90, until God tells you to stop. Until you're done. If I got my legs and my arms, I'm training. I'm not stopping.
Now I got one question that's going to end this right now in a good way. You got married in 1992?
Yes.
Oh, you graduated from high school?
Graduated in 92.
And you also got married?
Got married in 94.
94.
Yes.
Tell the crowd out there, because last week we talked a little about finding your soulmate.
Yeah.
And she's your business partner. And I remember back in the day, I used to see you two training at the gym together. Yeah. You guys are always together. Now, what makes that, with so many divorces today and failed marriages and relationships, tell us just one little secret.
That's a good ending right there. That's a good ending.
No, because you have to bring her up because she's your partner.
She's the best.
She's your soulmate, right?
She's the best.
I see the love in your eyes.
I want to punch her in the face. I want to choke her out.
Come on, you guys have some great chemistry.
Oh yeah, but I want to choke her.
I remember seeing them training at the gym together all the time, Jane. At the goals, both goals.
Yeah. And
it's like, wow, man.
Let me tell you something. When you are focused on just bettering yourself and just going to that next level, when you have that right partner, right? Because they're going to follow you. They're going to follow you. So she had chances to veer off. Mm-hmm. I gave her chances. I've done bad, She never did. She's always been there. I've done bad, and she's been there. She's gave me those chances. But she runs with me. She stays right there. She follows me. Everywhere I go, she's there. She, gives me my freedom. Go train, go fight. Yeah, I don't need to be around you. But she's there when it comes to, I want to do this. Okay, I'm there. And that's how it's going to be, because if you're one's going one way, one's going the other, that's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. And I could see it. I see it every day. Mm-hmm. My father and mother are still together 50 years plus. Mm-hmm. And I see what she does for that guy. And we just, you're going to want to kill your wife, and that's how it should be. Sometimes you want to beat the crap out of her. You just wish, but that's why she does jiu-jitsu, because I get to smash her on the mat. I do. she trains, and I put it on her. I lay on her, and I give her that, and I grind her. Yeah, I grind her.
You ever break her arm?
Huh?
You ever break her arm?
No, I would never do that. But I put it on her, but no.
She keeps her arms away from him.
No, she hides. She hides well. She had good defense.
Did you ever put her to sleep?
No. I'd never do that. I would never submit her. No. But yeah, she's your soulmate, you'll know when it's.
I'm on the right path because my girl's pretty much on the same
You'll be
page.
fine. 15. I've been with her since I was 15. She followed me through cycling. She found me when I was drunk. I was drunk at New Bedford High School partying with the seniors. I was a freaking junior, and all the seniors wanted me around. We had a Horse Neck Beach senior party. They're all invited. Hey, we want Marcio there. And I remember climbing the tower, almost jumping off. They're grabbing me. I'm drunk as a skunk. Go jump in the water. And then they bring me. They seen I was so drunk, they left me in the middle of New Bedford High School parking lot. They left me there. And her brother actually found me. He found me laying there. And he was a cyclist at the time. So we linked up cycling together. And she, he brought me to the house. And she met me through her brother. She's like, man, I want to be with this kid, man. And she was in New Bedford High School. And we never crossed paths in school. But we crossed paths through her brother. And we've been together ever since, man.
Awesome story, man.
Crazy. It's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was great having you on.
It was an honor.
Definitely, man. I was very interested in this. Very excited about this.
We could go on for days, too.
You definitely
maybe we'll have a part 2 down the line.
Yeah.
After your Worlds in Vegas.
Progress.
come
Absolutely.
back with the gold medal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right
that
on
would
your
be-
chest.
that would be great.
I could bring that in, and we
Yeah.
could talk about
The tournament.
you
and all
know
that.
how it went at the end of the year, where I stand, and there's a lot more to it, but steps, little
You're
steps.
welcome to any time to
to
promote your
success.
business.
Definitely,
Yeah.
man. Good
And-
stuff.
And
Good
just
stuff.
work hard, and like I tell everybody, just work hard, stay focused, no matter what you do. If you work hard, anything will work. Anything, and like I tell everybody, and my coaches always
It's a
say,
great thing for
consistency.
children.
Consistency, just
Yeah,
keep
we
it going.
talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
it.
Good stuff, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.